All right, so maybe I have or haven't convinced you to get into CEDH. I really hope you would give it as a try. But today I want to kind of talk about building your deck and getting it fully fleshed out. Because honestly, CEDH can be very expensive. There are a lot of expensive cards in CEDH that we play. Dual Lands being some of the expensive guys, Cradle. There's some other things out there that are very expensive cards. And not everyone has the funds or finances to get those cards, or even really the collection to trade in to get those cards. So I want to talk about that. So welcome to MTG Thursday Thoughts. Correction, it is MTG Tuesday Tips and Tricks. My bad, I got my days mixed up. That's what happens when you do videos with a headache. We're talking about CEDH again and kind of how to get your deck built. Here's my thought. When you want to get a CEDH deck, when you want to play a new CEDH deck or try a CEDH deck, see what cards you have. A lot of times as you build a collection, you'll have a lot of the normal cards. But when it comes to more expensive cards, your dual lands, things like that, even sometimes for some people, shock lands, fetch lands, whatever, I get it. You may not have those cards. What should I do? As a CEDH community, we're very proxy friendly. We don't want to play people's wallets. We want to play you and your ability to pilot that deck. So I recommend everyone, when you first start to get into CEDH or trying to find a deck, go ahead and proxy that deck or test it on Moxfield somehow. You can do that, get the deck list, build it, play it with other people. Don't just goldfish it, play it with other people so you can get a test. But find a way, get a proxy. There's lots of ways to get these proxies out there, get a whole deck for fairly cheap, and be able to test and be like, okay, yeah, this deck does this deck does this. Do I like this deck or not? And you're not out thousands of dollars, you're out just a little bit. And guess what? Usually those proxy cards you can use in other decks as well. That is the fun part. Don't just go straight up and just go straight by all the cards. You can. I mean, if you have all the cards, great. You can start putting them together. But it takes a while. And it took me a while. I started CEDH last summer. And I have one deck that is full. Well, two decks that I can say are full. It just depends if I bounce between them because of the more expensive cards that bounce between the cards. But I also had a large collection before then that I traded in to get into CEDH. So when I started building the decks and wanted to hire more and more expensive cards, I traded into them. Now you may say, well, I want to play in tournaments or I want to do this. Well, guess what? A lot of the tournaments, not every single tournament, but a lot of the tournaments allow a limited number of proxies because they understand not everyone is going to be able to afford all these cards or be able to get these cards. Now, there are some proxies, typically anything that is basically Wizards of the Coast ran is going to have a zero proxy policy, which is understandable where they're coming from on their side of things. But most tournaments outside of that are going to have a 10 to 20, 25, some are even 100% proxy friendly. You can sit there and you can play and put as many proxies as you want in the deck. I tell you this, when you want to get a new deck, or if you haven't gotten into CEDH and you want to get in, come talk to myself. There are several other people in the community who are out there and try to find that deck you want, but then test the deck, because you may see a deck you think you want to play, but then you're kind of like, that's actually not as good of a deck as I thought, or it's not as fast, or it's not as strong, and then you just kind of change your mind on it, which is okay. It's understandable that way. There are different decks out there. I have multiple decks I'm just testing and playing and having fun. I have my main decks that typically are my tournament or my higher, if I'm going to play stronger stuff or with different people, I'm going to play it. But I also have several proxy decks that I'm going to start playing to give me different variety on stream, because I want to try different decks. I want to see what it likes. And if I end up falling in love with a different deck, I may end up trading and being like, okay, I'm going to take most of this deck, tear it apart, put it in there. Now, that being said, as you get into it, you can start putting your pieces together and you find that deck you like, you can start trading up to it. I highly recommend that. I'm sure most of us have things in our collection. And the thing about it is as you trade up, you can get more and more cards. And the more and more cards you get, the better cards you get, the better quality cards you can get. And you can trade up into those dual lands and more expensive cards. It took me a minute. I thought it was the world's greatest thing when I traded into a Mana Crypt for only get banned a couple months later. And then I got into some of the Moxes, and then I got up at Vegas last year. I traded in for a Mox Diamond, which at that point was my most expensive card. And here's the thing. You don't have to have the most prettiest version of the card. When the cards get expensive, a lot of them, you can get heavy played, and they're pretty beat up. But most of my cards are very, very, very beat up. They're at the end, or even if they're damaged. If they're damaged but still sleeve playable, get it. Save that money. Now, I'm not saying you have to get all these cards, because you don't have to. But if you eventually want to get that deck and finally be able to finish it up, it takes a minute. So trade, save up that little bit of money. Instead of, let's say you buy booster packs every week, $10, $15, or you're buying a couple collector booster packs. Maybe set that back instead and say, you know what, I'm going to save up to buy singles. Now you can be like me and be like, no, I'm going to buy these packs anyways, and then take the singles out of it and trade into it, which you can do that as well, and hope and run the gambling machine, like we like. But at the same time, take your collection, look at stuff, and be like, okay, I'm not playing these anymore. I had a hard time for a while where I just had a ton of cards in my collection I never played. And I kept saying, well, I might need that card. Here's the thing. If I need the card in the future, I will probably have to purchase the card, but I have enough cards, other cards to trade. And as you get a big enough collection, you have enough. I have way too many cards, and I buy and sell and trade cards now all the time. And so I have a lot of cards in my collection, always moving around and trading and selling and stuff like that. And you know, when I go to conventions, I typically have cards I'm looking for. So there are some other cards I'm hoping to get when I go to Vegas in a few months. And I'm going to set some of my more expensive cards aside. Some of my decks that maybe aren't playing anymore, but I have more expensive cards. I might set those aside and say, okay, I'm taking these more expensive cards to trade in so that I can get this next dual lane or this next lane I want, and things like that. Like, you can do that as well. There's also giveaways. People do giveaways for lands and stuff like that. Find different ways. But overall, here's the thing. You can have proxy decks and play them. And for the most part, if you're not playing in tournaments, your decks could be 100% proxy. Now, again, you want to talk to your playgroup because your playgroup may be particular. But for the most part, most of us online, most of CG players, we don't care that you've got proxies, you've got whatever in your deck. But you want to also learn to love that deck. And once you get that deck finished and built and you love the deck, then maybe start adding the cards and getting to where you can call it you have the complete deck. There's not a better feeling. I remember the time I finally finished Kinnan. And that was expensive because I had to get a Gaia's Cradle. I traded so much stuff to get that Gaia's Cradle. But I was so excited to finally say, I have finished Kinnan. Kinnan is a complete deck. I don't have one proxy in here. This is really, really cool. But you know what? If finances, things ever came to it, I had to get rid of the expensive cards in there. I would still have Kinnan, and I would just have to go back to proxy, and I'm okay with that. But it is exciting when you get those cards. So I recommend, when you first start out, find your decks you like. Use proxy first. You can put in the cards you already own if you want. Proxy the more expensive cards. Find if you like the deck. If you like the deck, then you can start trading up to the deck and have fun with it. And this is the CEDH way. Have fun, build the decks. And as you get the collection, as your collection grow, eventually you'll just have the cards. And if you want to switch decks, change decks, you have most of the cards you need. And most of the cards you're going to not need are going to be your more average, lower tier cards. So that is my thoughts on it. And hopefully you'll give CEDH a chance. I would love to play some more people in CEDH. If you're interested to play CEDH, feel free to reach out to me. We have a CEDH stream this Saturday. Come check it out. See what it's like. We have lots of fun. CEDH is a lot of fun, and we want to get more people into it. And that's why I do all these tips and tricks and thoughts. You can play, you can have fun, and it's not Thursday Thoughts. It's MTG Tuesday's Tips and Tricks. And I messed up on that because my brain isn't all in there. So I'm going back and fixing it. This is MTG Tuesday's Tips and Tricks, not Thursday Thoughts, because my days are all off. And that's what happens when you wake up with a headache. But thank you guys so much for being here. I know it's a little bit longer of a video. I like to ramble. I like to talk. But hopefully we'll get you all with these tips and tricks to get you get into CEDH. And as always, we'll see you next time.